Alright, time to put a little rawhide on the back of the bow. So first thing I'm going to do, we have the bow or the stave ready to go. I'm just going to add one quick line of the tight bond here. I guess that was two very light lines of tight bond. We're just going to spread it with the finger. This is called sizing the bow. Just like that. Alright, well, I'm going to have to come back, but we're going to put a sizing coat on the sides as well. Just really light coat of glue on here. It's going to dry very quickly. Let's get a little bit wherever I want the rawhide to stick. I'm just going to let that dry, and I'm going to put I've got the rawhide over here. As you can see, there's already a sizing coat. Maybe you can see that. There's already a sizing coat of glue on the rawhide. And I already did the other half of the bow, but I made a little mistake. So I'm going to stop the film, fix my mistake, and come right back. Okay, so this is what I forgot to do last time, is I put extra glue on after the sizing was done. And now we're going to put the rawhide on. Like so. And I wrap these with an ace bandage because I'm using Titebond 2, which is a wood glue that uses evaporation to cure. And it needs the air. The ace bandage allows this to breathe. Whereas if you were using an epoxy, you could use like shrink wrap or plastic wrap because it doesn't need the air to breathe. Some people argue that the rubber tire works just as well with the wood glue, and it does. It can sort of get it going. It just takes a lot longer, and then you may still have to unwrap it and let it dry the rest of the way, but it'll definitely get it started and work well for you. It just takes longer. Significantly longer. Alright. Our ace bandage isn't quite long enough. So, let's see what I got to use. This one happened to come with this little bit of gauze. Are we still in the picture? Let's see. Turn this a little bit here. So let's see if we can go the rest of the way. This is this self-adhering wound gauze. Let's see if we only got a little of this left, so maybe it'll work. This breathes as well, so it's also perfectly acceptable. Although this is going to get destroyed, whereas the ace bandage pretty much will hold together. Got a little dry here, so I'm just adding a little more glue. It's getting into the static limb where I don't need the rawhide, and I'll probably trim the rawhide there anyway. But for now, I'd rather have it and get rid of it later than not have it and decide I want it. One nice thing about this self-adhering stuff is it just sticks to itself, so you don't even need to. Just done. I love that. Okay, so this just sticks to itself, and then now the one thing I do like to do is I like to work out all the air bubbles, and so what I'll do is I'll kind of roll my finger, squeeze, and see if we got any excess glue. Doesn't feel like we've got too much excess glue at this moment here. Okay, now I can feel a little. work my way down. This will spread out the glue a little bit and also fill in anywhere it needs it. You see it push some air bubbles out right there. A little bit of glue came to the surface. That's where the two pieces of rawhide meet. I'll do that on the other side. And same thing here. If you look right next to my thumb, you can see the little bubbles, a little bubble in the ace bandage. I don't know if that's coming out on camera, but I don't know if that's air or glue, but either way, getting it out is a good idea. It just helps things dry faster. Well, I guess if it's glue, it helps things dry faster. If it's an air bubble, you want it out so you don't get a non-glue spot. Okay, so see that? See how it's pushing out that excess? That's where the two pieces of rawhide meet. Got all the excess glue out. I usually will wait 24 hours before I take the wrapping off, and then I'll wait, maybe depending on how it feels at that point. If it's not rock hard, then I'll wait another 24 hours before I mess with anything. Usually doesn't take that long. Usually in 24 hours it's pretty good. I live in a pretty dry and extra warm environment at this time of year, so this will probably go pretty quickly. Alright, I'll be back when we're taking the wrapping off. Mike from Boyer Boats. Okay, so it has now been unwrapped. I gotta tell you, I love how smooth this rawhide comes out. This is calf rawhide. I really like it. It's a little thinner than the goat rawhide I have been using. It's not as pristinely white, so I'm guessing that the goat was bleached, whereas this has not been bleached. But it adheres to the bow really well. And it's been 24 hours. Now that I've unwrapped it, I'm going to let it sit for another day. I'm not going to work on it today before I do anything with it. But I could trim it at this point, and I probably will. You see how far up the static limb the rawhide gone up. Now if I weren't going to recurve the edges, sorry, let me start over. If I wasn't going to recurve the static portion of the limbs or reflex them, I'd leave the rawhide there. It can only help. But I'm going to use heat to do that, so I'll probably trim them back to about here and then wrap the ends with either sinew or some serving material and go from there. Because if I use the heat, it may mess up the glue up, and if it messes up the glue up here, it might travel further down. I want to prevent that from happening. I don't want that to happen, so we're going to do that. I'm going to protect what I have. And glow is looking relatively in line for what I was hoping for. Next thing to do is just to trim up the rawhide a little bit. And I'm actually going to start the tillering process. Well, that's not true. I'm not sure if I'm going to start the reflex, the tips, or the tillering process first. I'm probably be a lot smarter if I were to reflex the tips first, because you tiller it, then reflex the tips, and it could change the tiller. So, now that I've corrected myself, I'm going to trim up the rawhide and then reflex or recurve the static portion of the limb. So, tune in for that video. And I'll have the rest of myself talking in proper sentences after this as well. Alright guys, Mike from Boyer Bows. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Get back to you soon.